Hi, this is Tamika Chambers, and thank you for listening to another episode of Create a Generational Love Cycle. And as I say before, when people that's a whole mouthful to say, but when I talk about the name of my podcast, when you're thinking about habits and how to break a habit, you replace it with a more positive habit. And so instead of saying this podcast is about breaking the cycle, the way that we break the cycle of pain is through love. Because as the Bible states, that love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil. And so often we project, when we're talking about domestic violence, there's a projection going on of pain. Because when you are verbally abusing someone, calling them by outside of their name, calling them just really downgrading them with language and abusing physically with your body parts or even with weapons, how can love be the guiding light that leads to violence? Can it be the guiding light? And so when we love ourselves, we typically show that through our love for others. That, I don't know what it feels like to have someone hitting on me in a relationship. But I know I've witnessed pain, how words can be said, hurtful words can be said. And it's like you understand that it's not you. You have to understand it's not you that's causing their pain. Those are unhealed wounds that typically, a lot of times, you have nothing to do with. Whether it's a marriage, whether it's a relationship, those are unhealed wounds. And I know often we may stay in relationships because we don't think someone would love us. There are so many reasons we don't think someone will love us. We may have children involved, other things that are going on. Maybe your life, you feel like your life is better than what it was growing up, and you feel like you have to stay with this person. You feel obligated to them for maybe taking you out of that lifestyle. When I was a young girl, my mother rushed my brother, the oldest brother, in our shared bedroom in Memphis apartment. And I remember she told us to stay put. And so, of course, a curious girl, I left our bedroom, went to the door right before the living room, and I squeezed my eyes, squeezed my face against the door and my eye, trying to see what was going on. And I could see my mother. I could feel her sadness as she described something to one of the men, or both of the men in the dark uniforms. It was one of them, the whole body that I could see, that was standing over her, and she was describing, pointing her hands and her arms to what was going on. And I could just feel her sadness, like she was getting ready to cry. And I remember that, and I reported. The other memory I have is reporting this violence to a family member of my father's. And I've shared this before. And after reporting that, I was the one on trial for it. Right. And so my thing about pain, one of the things that pain has taught me is that I don't want to be in pain. Because as a child of a domestic violence relationship, even though I was only there for about 4.5 years, seeing my father laying on the floor, just passed out, seeing my father and my mom explaining about what my father was doing to her, and whatever memories are still locked in my mind, in my head, and seeing this guy that could still be so kind and caring. One day when I swallowed a fish bone, he rushed in and scooped me up and gave me pieces of bread to help me swallow the bone. And he would say, tell me, you're going to be okay. You're going to be all right. And I'm looking at him in awe, like, oh my gosh, are you the same person? The mixed messages, because pain comes, right? And it goes, just like any wound. Some days are better than others. And so I learned over the years that my father was dealing with some pain. And I knew with drugs and with alcohol, and I knew that wasn't the route to go. That just because we are brought in pain does not mean that we need to continue the cycle of pain. There are too many. As I look through the research that I did about some stats that I grabbed online, I believe clevelandfed.org, and I'll share that, that there are 20 people per minute that are abused by an intimate partner in the U.S. And this is just the U.S. alone. 20 people, line 40 people up, and 20 of them are abused by someone. 1 year equals 10 million men and women. 1 in 4 women, 1 in 9 men experience domestic violence. In one day, a domestic line can receive as many as 20,000 phone calls. Did you know that intimate partner counts for 15% of the crime, 15% of that dark cycle of pain that revolves? Because pain is pain. When we project our pain out on others through verbal language, through physical means, whether it's use of a weapon or use of our hands, our body part, that's 15% of the crime. That's pain. Pain is pain. Domestic violence, elder abuse, child abuse, all stems from that cycle of pain that we somehow, people feel that it's their right that when they are in pain, that we get a chance to take it out on people. We can't take it out on people. We have a right to that. And that is a way that we dehumanize people. And we say, your body is not your own. Your body belongs to me. And that is not a fact. Our body belongs to God, to our Creator. We are human vessels here to spread the message of love. 19% of those 15% of crime involve weapons. There are only 30% of the injured receive medical care. And I'm not a judge, because I can understand that you feel like which way is out. If you have children involved, I understand that. Years ago, I watched The Burning Bed. How desperate we can be to feel like we have to take someone else's life to prevent them from taking ours. How much fear and anger that must be wrapped up in us. As I said, I cannot speak of someone physically hitting me, but I can speak of a child who had some exposure to domestic violence. That 1 in 15 children are exposed to violence, and 90% of these children eyewitness violence. When I reported my father, I said that daddy abused his mom. To someone who owned a daycare, I said daddy abused his mom. So there's no doubt that I've seen it. As a matter of fact, I've recently had some images that I was in the car with my husband, and I said, what is this? I feel like I'm seeing something. I'm seeing some abuse. And I called my mom and I called my mother and I told her exactly what was going on, the image that was coming across me. She said that's what her husband used to do, my father. So when we're talking about being in an abusive relationship, and even this day, I say I am glad, no matter what I've been through, I'm glad my mother left that abusive relationship, because there's no guarantee that I would not have experienced sexual abuse. There is no guarantee, especially when you have alcohol and drugs. There's no guarantee. Who could guarantee that if your father was with your mother, you would have not have been abused, right? So I can't sit here and blame my father. I can't blame my mother. And that's what I talk about in my memoir, The Audacity to Write My Truth. That it is about, it's less than blaming. Once you are out of those situations, those experiences, it's less focus is on blaming, more focus is on healing and preventing that cycle of abuse from reaching our children, from reaching the next generation. Did you know Black men more than white men, because of being exposed to domestic violence or any other type of violence, carry guns and attack people? They end up being in a gang, suspended from school, end up on drugs, or even destroying the property of others, or even being arrested. What we do has a direct and indirect effect on others. We can say that, this abuse, like my father said, don't tell anybody what's going on at home. Well, what was at home, what was going on at home did not stay at home. The seeds of self-doubt entered my mind about abuse. It didn't stay at home because I had to deal with the effect of having my voice stifled and told by my father that you do not speak your truth. You speak your truth. Whatever relationship you are in, know that you do not deserve someone treating you inhumane. That I believe God has a way of working things out. We did not struggle, per se, when my mom left my father. Things came in multitudes from people we didn't even know. People that we didn't even know treated us better than our own family. They gave us free rides, took us to the store, gave us groceries, washing machine. That often we are afraid, as in my abuse, as in my mother's abuse, we are afraid to exit that door. On the other side of exit does not mean that it has to be more pain. On the other side of exit may be your path to freedom by saying no more. I will not. And it's not just about you in the violent relationship. It's about no more will I allow this cycle of pain to continue. Because I know if you hurt me, I'm going to hurt. And there's a chance that I'm going to take my hurt out on others. I refuse. We need to refuse to continue the cycle of pain. Too many people are hurting. The abuse does not stay at home. The way we create a generational cycle of love is we say no. No to the pain and yes to healing, yes to love, yes to freedom. One person at a time. Because you never know who your daughter may meet out in that world and think that it's okay. And it's happened. It's okay that my husband beats on me because he beat on my father, beat on my mother, and that's the way marriages go. It's okay if my wife beats on me because my mother beat on my husband. That's the way life's supposed to go. And then we have a cycle of pain. And the deeper we get in cycle of pain, sometimes the harder it is for us to get ourselves out of. So you have the opportunity to create a generational love cycle. And again, that's the way you do that is you say no. You say no to pain and yes to yourself and yes to the legacy that you are going to leave. This is Tamika Chambers. You can catch me on tamikaschambers.com. I look forward to answering any questions you have. Feel free to email me. And this is your life. Make the best of it. Make the best of it. Because what you do today will affect generations to come.